Now this one has been long awaited on the channel. Most of you found me and joined the Fridge fam based on one of my many videos on Marvel Spider-Man 2. We finally got the long awaited sequel to both 2018 Spider-Man PS4 and 2020's Spider-Man Miles Morales. The game has been out a couple weeks, you've seen the reviews raking in high numbers, and people are shouting Game of the Year from the mountaintops. But you're still looking for some more grounded thoughts outside of gaming publication or internet hype culture before pulling the trigger on the purchase. Well, allow me to step in and share my general first impressions of one of my most highly anticipated games of 2023. Before we get into it, I want to drive home this point. This is not a full-on review since I have not completed the game at the time of making this video. If you come by the streams asking questions about it, my thoughts may have changed the further I get into it. Be sure to check out multiple sources for thoughts and opinions before you decide to buy this game for yourself. Even though this has been one of the games I was most looking forward to this year, and being a huge Spider-Man fan can tend to cause some bias, I will be giving my absolute honest feedback on what I love about the game and on what aspects I'm feeling could be improved upon. Enough with the introductions and disclaimers, time to see what you can expect from Marvel Spider-Man 2 at first glance. The game starts off strong with a huge set piece against Sandman. Amazing choice. You get familiarized with the game's previous controls while also getting introduced to a few new ones like the freshly introduced web wings. By the way, all throughout this first mission, Miles stays saving Peter's ass, but I can't say I've seen the same from Peter in the first few hours. So who's really the better Spider-Man when you put it that way? Sorry, just a little jab to all those people who oppose the fact that Miles Morales is most definitely Spider-Man. Shortly after this multi-stage boss fight and a couple main story quests are concluded, you have full access to the open world, new side activities, and the ability to switch between our two heroes at will, at least during the open world exploration, but I'll explain more on that later. To summarize how far I went before crafting this video, I played all the way up until Peter gets the black suit, which was a much more fleshed out narrative than I expected. I did this so that I could be able to go over as much of the newer mechanics as I possibly could. So let's hop into talking about the gameplay, and while I'm chatting about that, feel free to hop on down to that like button if you're finding this video helpful. The movement is absolutely overhauled, with our heroes having a shared skill tree that houses most of their traversal skill upgrades, as well as suit tech for further modification. And then each hero has a ton of shared as well as unique combat and web ability upgrades on top of that. I'll say a huge highlight for me is that there is also a much more in-depth combo system. It's much less of the mashing square and dodging circle that we're used to in the previous titles. Not only do you have the new parry system, there's also unlockables for directional web yanks, ground pound and bounce attacks to further juggle enemies, and many new options for handling cell situations with the addition of the web line gadget. I'll say that the difficulty is definitely turned up as well, with not only the addition of some moves that require a parry or jumping in the air to get out of the way, there's also unblockable crush attacks that you have to dodge. They cannot be parried. All these things make for a nice switch up in how you take down your enemies in multiple situations, crimes, side quests, and boss battles. Another small but key mechanic that was tweaked was the fact that you can now not heal unless you have a full focus bar. So it forces you to choose between that one-time use of an instant takedown or regaining your health. No more micro healing like the first two games while in combat. Y'all know what I'm talking about, when you just kind of spam heal with what little focus you've kind of built up over time. Ongoing crimes also gain some variability in them. While they did shorten the car chase a little too much into a one-button takedown, there was one time that I was chasing an APC full of hunters, and then it brought me to a roadblock where even more of them were setting up shop. Seeing some of those crime shifts happen was definitely a nice little detail, and I thought it was cool that things are constantly going on and you're not going to always have these exact repetitive situations for every petty crime that pops up. You can tell that the biggest labor of love was put into expanding this world, the vast amount of side activities, some of which that include their own storyline or heartfelt moments, and making you truly feel like a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm definitely loving that about the game. Now on to performance. I did play this with the day one patch update applied, and unfortunately did still experience some issues. I don't recall getting too terrible of frame drops on performance mode, which was good. Running a smooth 60 FPS is never a bad thing. I have heard good things about the fidelity mode being a pretty stable 30 FPS, so I may have to try it just to see how much better quality wise it is. However, I also experienced some glitches, such as not being able to wall run on a couple building walls that I would have expected to be able to, and then that time where I was seeing if they updated the parkour mechanics but ended up phasing through a wall.
Action. And also, a word from our sponsors.
Well, I just glitched the game. I'm inside of a building. Well, Look, everybody, I can't get out. Now, I did not run into the infamous spider cube glitch that I've seen floating around online, though. I know a lot of people have been having fun with that one. Now, has the launch of this game been perfect? No. For sure, there have been a decent share of issues, and I know I've spoken a lot of praises to it, but I have to be fair. And there's been a few critiques I have for sure. For example, coming back to something I mentioned earlier in the video about switching between Peter and Miles, I was kind of expecting that with two Spider-Men, that there were missions that they would run together past the Sandman fight. It seems like most main and side quests only involve one at a time. Like, I know part of the story is Harry is back, and so Peter is kind of ditching Miles, but it still put me off a little bit. Another thing with having the other Spider-Man team up in crimes, I thought we would be able to change on the fly in those moments as well. Most of you who have played the Arkham series are probably familiar with what I'm talking about. Like when you do the combo trials and you could switch the character that you controlled mid-fight. I don't know, I thought when they said you could change to either Spider-Man whenever you want in the open world, I'm not sure why it gave me that idea, but I figured it was a good thing to point out as maybe a missed opportunity. One last weird thing about the AI companion system. Miles always seems to pop up for Peter while doing crimes in the open world, but I don't think I've ever seen Peter pop up for Miles. I don't know if that's intentional, but I swear they said you can be doing something as one of the Spider-Men and the other will show up or already be there to help you with a crime. I took that as this happens no matter what Spider-Man you're controlling. Is this a bug, Insomniac? Is it not supposed to be like that? I hadn't seen anybody address it really at all. But despite its shortcomings and there not necessarily being features I was hoping for, I am enjoying feeling more like New York's favorite web slinger than I ever have before. Just getting lost and traversing the open world and grabbing collectibles is even more possible with how much I enjoy that part of the game. Now, at first glance, is Marvel Spider-Man 2 the Game of the Year contender that the internet is making it out to be? I would say that there is heavy potential. I do believe that it will get its most justification out of the story to solidify whether or not it'll be nominated. This was, of course, my most highly anticipated release of 2023, but I understand that that's because I'm a Spider-Man fanboy, and this game released the same year as heavy hitters like Jedi Survivor, Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3. There's just stiff competition that it's got to go up against. That's for certain. Now, if you found this installment of At First Glance helpful in you deciding whether or not Marvel Spider-Man 2 is a must get by Christmas time for yourself, your significant other, or your kiddos, then consider subscribing to the channel for future videos in the series. And if you're an Assassin's Creed fan and wondering how good Assassin's Creed Mirage turned out, then click the card on the screen and see if it's worth your purchase at first glance.